Perry accuser Derek Dixon sits down in a TV interview for the first time, sharing allegations of workplace assault and harassment. User claims that Tyler Perry denies, but Dixon says he's speaking out now to try to stop a billionaire who won't stop themselves.
Breaking news. Tyler Perry, the billionaire mogul once celebrated as a beacon of Black Hollywood, has been arrested, sending shockwaves through the entertainment world. FBI agents stormed his Atlanta mansions in a raid that uncovered what sources are calling disturbing evidence, potentially linked to dozens of alleged victims. What was once a legacy of storytelling and resilience is now at the center of one of Hollywood's darkest scandals. The world is watching as a man who built an empire on stories of redemption finds himself caught in a plot twist he never wrote. And this time there are no studio lights, only the relentless glare of federal investigation.
5. Tell us about the first time you ever met Tyler Perry.
Yeah, I met him at his studio opening party in 2019. I was working for an events company, and we met, and he said to me, are you an actor? And I said, well, not right now. I'm working on it, but not right now. And he said, yeah, you are. We need to talk. You should get my number, and we'll.
We watched it unfold in real time. Black SUVs rolling through the private gates, blue-jacketed agents swarming Perry's estate with the kind of military precision reserved for only the most serious operations. Eyewitnesses report that agents left Perry's estate carrying boxes of files, encrypted hard drives, and what insiders suggest might be video evidence of damning interactions. The imagery was almost cinematic, and yet the tension on the ground was all too real. Security staff looked shaken. Neighbors whispered that even seasoned officers seemed rattled by what they found inside. Speculations are swirling about what these materials could reveal. Are they just standard business records, or the key to exposing a hidden web of exploitation? What's been pulled from behind the fortress walls is now reportedly under lock and key at the FBI field office, guarded night and day. Even seasoned insiders are calling this the beginning of an unraveling empire. As of now, no one from Perry's team is talking. Phones are switched off, and the lawyers have set up a war room.
What made you decide to come forward with your story?
I wanted to speak out and not stay silent about it anymore.
But the most chilling find? Secret hard drives, reportedly encrypted and hidden within the depths of Perry's estate. This wasn't your everyday stash of studio backups. These were buried, protected, and camouflaged behind false panels and security code locks. What's actually on those drives is a question haunting everyone, from the DA's office to the fans who once called Perry a hero. Could these hold the key to the alleged coercion, manipulation, or worse? For now, the authorities are staying tight-lipped, but whispers from insiders suggest they may contain the kind of evidence that could end Perry's reign in Hollywood for good. This isn't just a scandal about someone falling from grace. This is about the machinery of power, how one of the most influential figures in American entertainment might have weaponized his access, his wealth, and his promise of stardom. As the investigation deepens, the question looms: how many victims could there be? And what will these findings reveal about the man behind the empire? All signs point to a story that's much bigger than one man's alleged wrongdoing. What we know so far is just the first shudder of an earthquake, and the aftershocks are being felt in every boardroom, on every set, and across every social feed. The FBI isn't playing around. Multiple sources close to law enforcement say the scope of the investigation already goes well beyond anything the public has seen. One retired studio executive who spent 3 decades working in Hollywood summed it up to us like this: if the rumors about those hard drives are true, then the industry has a much bigger problem on its hands than anyone wants to admit.
What kind of a toll would you say that this is all taken on you?
I was extremely anxious. The calls got to a point where the calls and texts were almost every day. Just this constant state of like, if I don't answer, I will lose my job.
So how did it come to this? Enter Derek Dixon, the actor who has now put a face and a voice to the growing allegations against Tyler Perry. Dixon, who starred as Dale in Perry's BET drama The Oval, didn't just file a lawsuit. He detonated a bombshell that has upended everything we thought we knew about life behind the gilded gates of Tyler Perry Studios. In his first on-camera interview since filing the now infamous lawsuit, Dixon held nothing back. I wanted to speak out and not stay silent about it anymore. There's no denying the courage or the cost. Dixon's lawsuit isn't just about his own story. It's about what he describes as a coercive, intimately exploitative dynamic that, if true, throws open the doors to a world few outsiders ever glimpse. Let's lay out the timeline as it emerged from court documents and Dixon's own televised confessions. The two men first crossed paths at the opening gala for Tyler Perry Studios in 2019, a moment that, by all accounts, should have been the beginning of a dream. Dixon says Perry sought him out in the crowd, asked if he was an actor, and handed over his number. It's the kind of invitation that can transform lives. Or, as we're now forced to ask, trap them? Over the following months, Dixon landed a role as Dale on The Oval, a career-making move by any measure. And yet, from that very first encounter, he claims, the relationship with Perry became increasingly personal, intrusive, and eventually, unbearably toxic.
We were over at his house. We're having some drinks in his guest house, and it was late at night, and he has a guest quarters, and said that you can sleep there instead of not driving. And his house is far from Atlanta and where I was living. And I got into bed, and then I noticed that he climbed into bed with me as well and started rubbing my leg. And I jumped up out of bed.
According to the civil complaint, what began as a mentorship twisted into something far darker. Dixon says Perry started sending messages that veered into deeply inappropriate territory. Screenshots, now splashed across court documents and TV screens, reportedly show a disturbing pattern. What's it going to take for you to have guiltless fun? Have y'all found that in therapy yet? I would hope that you would let someone hold and make love to you. Perry's legal team, naturally, has fired back with every weapon in the PR arsenal. In a statement, attorney Matthew Boyd dismissed the entire affair as a scam. Tyler will not be shaken down, and we are confident these fabricated claims of harassment will fail. But for Dixon, the stakes are much higher than reputation or cash, as he told ABC News. There's a lot of shame around it, just trying to think what you could have done better and having to deal with the judgment of how you could have ended it better without being in that situation. The suit claims things took a physical turn in January 2020, when Perry allegedly invited Dixon for drinks at the mogul's Atlanta mansion. Instead of a safe night in the guest house, Dixon says the evening veered into a nightmare. Perry climbing into bed with him, rubbing his leg, and making comments about his appearance. I jumped out of bed, he had said, turn around so I can look at you. And then he got up and left. If Dixon thought his boundaries were finally clear, he was wrong. The script for his character on The Oval soon delivered its own chilling message. Dale shot 4 times in the chest at the end of season 2. If I don't make him happy, I could stay off the show for good, Dixon recounted. For him, and possibly for others, the threat was never just personal, it was professional. The power to rewrite a script is, in this world, also the power to erase someone's career.
He has said, turn around so I can look at you, and just commented on how I looked, and then he got up and left. So I thought after that instance, it was pretty clear that I was not interested in that type of a relationship. It was very, very strange. I mean, I think it's okay that people try to make a move or shoot their shot, but if they get rejected, I think that they should stop.
What followed, Dixon alleges, was a relentless campaign of psychological pressure and escalating advances. More text messages, more invitations, a late-night encounter in Perry's trailer, alleged unwanted touching. And then, perhaps the most damning claim of all, the incident in June 2021, where Perry supposedly pulled down Dixon's underwear in his mansion and told him to just go with it. Dixon says he tried to de-escalate, locked himself in the bathroom, and only found safety when Perry left the room. Unless someone's been through something where they have their control over their body taken away, you don't really understand, Dixon explained in his televised confession. That sense of fear, of being trapped, unable to escape, and terrified of losing everything, echoes through every word of the lawsuit. As for Perry's response, it has been one of calculated silence, mixed with targeted legal aggression. No public statement from the mogul himself, only the repeated denials and counter-accusations from his lawyers. Yet behind closed doors, it's a different story. Sources close to the studio say panic has set in. Some employees, already worried about the infamous no writer's room policy and Perry's iron grip on creative control, are reportedly calling their own lawyers. Whispers have started about NDAS being rushed through, hush money, and emergency meetings late into the night.
That was his way of showing his power over us and our careers, and that he doesn't have a problem with just one of us off.
Dixon's decision to finally step away from the Oval in 2024 cost him nearly $400,000 in lost income, not to mention the rights to a comedy pilot he wrote, ironically titled Losing It, which Perry still allegedly owns. And the financial stakes are astronomical. The lawsuit pegs damages at $260 million, a number Dixon says is intended both to recoup what he lost and, more importantly, to be a deterrent. For how do you stop a billionaire who won't stop themselves from doing this? He's not alone in his quest for justice. After the lawsuit became public, Dixon received messages from others, some supportive, some threatening, some claiming their own stories with Perry. This is why people, especially men, don't come forward, he admitted. I was too afraid to come forward. I knew it would be awful, and I was right. The broader fallout is impossible to ignore. Industry figures who once relied on Perry's empire are now publicly distancing themselves. Alfonso Ribeiro, a man who once directed a dozen episodes for Perry, has made it clear he wants nothing to do with the mogul. Social media, always hungry for fresh scandal, is ablaze with speculation, shade, and wild theories. There's talk of feuds, secret feasts of resentment, and actors warning each other to steer clear of any opportunity that come with too many strings attached. If there was once a wall of silence around Perry's kingdom, it's crumbling now, and no amount of PR damage control seems able to rebuild it.
And I said, stop, I don't want to be naked, I don't want this. And he was just like, no, I'm not gonna hurt you, and just continued. And in that moment, unless someone's been through something where they have their control over their bodies taken away, you don't really understand the kind of feelings that you get in that moment. It was almost like every thought came through my head to run, to fight.
All the while, the shadow of that FBI raid hangs heavy. No official word yet on the contents of those secret hard drives, but insiders say investigators are poring over every file, every scrap of digital evidence, every encrypted message. The rumor mill is at full tilt, fueled by whispers from former employees and anonymous tips. Some claim the drives contain communications with other actors, studio emails, and security camera footage. Others suggest there are files so sensitive, so potentially incriminating, that even veteran agents were stunned into silence. The authorities aren't leaking, yet. But every day the story grows darker, more tangled, and more impossible to ignore. As we stand on the edge of the unknown, one question keeps coming back. If these allegations are even half true, how many others have stories like Dixon's? How many dreams have been quietly strangled in the pursuit of power and profit? And with the whole world watching, what else will surface from the depths of the Perry empire?
Looking for money to buy your silence?
No, I think I was looking for accountability on to what he did. I think what he did was wrong, and it needed to be something that would deter him from doing this to somebody else.
Behind the scenes of his billion-dollar empire, insiders describe a studio where Perry's influence was absolute, his word law, and dissent nearly impossible. What looked from the outside like the dream factory of the South, endless sound stages, A-list premieres, a parade of hopeful actors flying in from LA, may have always had a darker current flowing just below the surface. Over the years, we've heard whispers from former employees and collaborators. Tyler Perry Studios was a place where every detail from scripts to salaries flowed through one person. Former writers described being replaced overnight for asking about union contracts. Actors, even those with decades of experience, reportedly found themselves playing by a different set of rules that seemed to change on Perry's mood or when the cameras stopped rolling. He writes every script himself. He decides who gets a line and who disappears, one former head writer once told us, sounding more like a witness than a colleague. For many, working at the Atlanta compound was the closest thing to making it in Hollywood, until it wasn't. It's a setup that's earned Perry praise and power in equal measure. On the one hand, he broke open doors that had long been closed to Black creatives, launching careers and paying out real money in an industry famous for empty promises. On the other, the shadow of total control meant there was little room for complaint or resistance. Stories have emerged about staff who vanished from call sheets without warning, actors who quietly left town, and crew who kept their heads down to survive another contract cycle. We can't help but wonder, was this tight grip on every detail a creative necessity or the perfect shield for behavior no one dared challenge? The question is more urgent now than ever as allegations pile up.
To a point in the night where, we were both kind of feeling drunk, and I remember we were walking back to the guest area where I've stayed before, and there was this health monitor scale on the way. And I was like, what is that? And he said, well, you have to be in your underwear to measure, whatever, so you should do it. He reached down and pulled my underwear down and grabbed my
Within this environment where an entire production's fate could turn on a single text or an unspoken favor, it's not hard to see how an imbalance of power could be exploited, or at least hidden. Even seasoned stars tiptoed around Perry, careful not to offend the man who could make or break their next project with a phone call. The cost of speaking up was well known: career limbo, reputational damage, and the silent erasure that comes when the industry decides you're not worth the risk. Was this really a place of opportunity or a carefully manicured illusion? As the FBI continues its work, those old stories suddenly read like warning signs ignored for years. The tension only gets thicker as we dig into the latest and potentially most damning rumor swirling around the industry: the so-called Hollywood silent list. According to multiple sources, this is no ordinary blacklist. Instead, it's allegedly a covert list circulating among actors, crew, and even agents. One that details the unspoken rules for surviving a Tyler Perry production. Some say it's a who's who of those marked as difficult, uncooperative, or simply not trusted by the powers that be, Others insist it's more than that, a ledger of favors owed, secrets kept, and the high cost of silence paid in both cash and career advancement. Sayamya.
That's when he pushed me up against the wall and grabbed my again.
Now, this silent list isn't just whispered about at rap parties or in late-night text threads. Its existence has become the stuff of open conspiracy, a kind of unofficial survival guide that gets handed down from actor to actor. Watch what you say, keep your NDA handy, and never, ever cross the line if you value your next paycheck. If true, the implications are massive. The list could expose not only Perry, but also anyone else who helped enforce the system or benefited from keeping their mouths shut. And with federal investigators reportedly interviewing witnesses from coast to coast, the question isn't just whether the list will leak, but how high up the food chain the fallout might reach. Industry veterans, agents, and even former network execs are quietly scrambling to check old emails, to remember what deals they signed, who they vouched for, and what they might have overlooked in exchange for another season or a bigger syndication cut. Still, the official line remains denial. Perry's attorneys continue to insist the allegations are fabricated, a scam designed to squeeze money from a billionaire who made himself a target. But the optics are getting worse by the day. When former collaborators like Alfonso Ribeiro are willing to break ranks and throw public shade, I don't need or ever want that man to do anything for me. It's a sign that the old omerta is fracturing. A year ago, Perry was in a bidding war to buy BET. Today, he's fighting to keep his name off a blacklist of his own making. The shift is seismic. Even if the rumors about the silent list turn out to be exaggerated, the mere belief in its existence speaks volumes about how fear and complicity have governed life inside Perry's kingdom.
Any of your initial interactions give you pause?
You know, a few of them were, did give me pause, but they weren't bad enough to think like this was a dangerous situation in the beginning.
Meanwhile, more dominoes threaten to fall. Behind the headlines, the legal machinery is just getting started. The lawsuit filed by Dixon, already a cultural earthquake, has opened the door for other alleged victims. Civil attorneys are circling, FBI agents are tracing timelines, cross-referencing texts, and matching names. It's not just about one case anymore, it's about the culture that made it possible. Each new claim, each leak, each internal memo increases the pressure. And with the documentary world already circling, oh my God, Surviving Tyler Perry is reportedly in production, aiming to collect first-person accounts and leaked documents. The old walls of secrecy are crumbling faster than Perry's own production schedules. Even as these revelations break, there's a sense that we're only scraping the surface. What about the years of under lock and key digital archives now in federal custody? What will happen if the rumors of surveillance footage, studio logs, and confidential settlements prove true? The industry's biggest players, who once competed for Perry's blessing, now measure their words with surgical caution. Even Perry's allies, those who stood by him through fights with writers and endless media criticism, are suddenly quiet, unavailable for comment, or hiding behind prepared statements. Hollywood power brokers have always known how to close ranks. But with the FBI in a relentless press corps circling, their safe harbor may be evaporating.
The day after that, he called several times and I ended up getting afraid of what was going on the other side. So I picked up, and that's when he said, you know, he was sorry for what happened. He doesn't know why he did that, and that maybe he was self-sabotaging or something. And in the same call, he said, and don't worry, we're going to do your show.
The atmosphere is electric, unstable, almost cinematic in its suspense. Each new day brings a fresh leak, another piece of the puzzle, or a new voice demanding to be heard. For those who've spent years on the inside making art, chasing paychecks, or just trying to survive, there's both fear and relief. If the truth comes out, will it finally change the rules? Or will the old machinery grind forward, swallowing the latest scandal and moving on to the next big franchise, the next billion-dollar streamer deal? We're left staring at a crossroads, wondering if Hollywood will ever really hold itself accountable, or if this will all dissolve into spin, settlements, and the next scandal du jour. What's clear is that the story is far from over. As lawsuits pile up and victims continue to come forward, the walls around Tyler Perry's carefully constructed empire are beginning to crack. Will this scandal finally bring accountability to one of Hollywood's untouchable moguls? Or will Perry's legal team succeed in burying the truth before it ever sees the light? If true, this case could redefine how power is wielded and abused in Hollywood. And to prove this is Jen, you make it. And if not, it raises an equally troubling question. How do we separate fact from fiction in the court of public opinion? What do you believe? Is this the downfall of a mogul with a dark secret, or an elaborate scheme to take him down? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't hold back. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and don't look away. Because in Hollywood, the truth is always stranger than fiction.